The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on September 21st, 2021.
Aloha and welcome Maui to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Tumpa, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and today we're going to talk to Mayor Victorino about the new Safer Outside order. We're going to get an update on COVID counts and hospital capacity and leveraging federal infrastructure money. We're going to talk about Destination Management Action Plan and update and visitor statistics, and talk with the president and CPO of Maui United Way and hear the critical needs of our community and new activities to meet those needs. So we've got all that coming up and more. But first, I'd like to welcome Mayor Michael Victorino. Good morning, Mayor, and great to have you on the show again.
Good morning and aloha to you and everyone out there. And yes, thank you very much. And thank you for this opportunity again to kind of review what's happening out there with Safer Outside. Again, when we put this together, what our accounts at that time were extremely high, and our hospitals throughout the state, but even here at Maui, were being taxed. We're really almost at capacity, not only COVID, but other emergency and other needs of our community. ICU beds were being utilized almost 100%, and other facilities within our hospital and our other medical facilities were being taxed. Yes. So we felt that instead of closing businesses down like some people have done in other counties, we wanted to expand it using the vaccination card issue and saying that if you're fully vaccinated, you show your card, you can sit inside of a restaurant or in other theaters or whatever else. If you weren't, then outside, so there's outside facilities available. You could sit outside, and takeout was still available for anyone who had not got vaccinated. So we try to really cover the gamut in that respect. And initially, I got, what I call mixed reviews. There were some that were very happy. Some residents complied with no problem. Others struggled with some miscommunication as far as their employees. But that's another issue. I'll come back and cover that in a moment. But as far as customers were concerned, if they were fully vaccinated, they could show you a card or a photocopy on your phone of a card. And also the Safe Travels program, you could upload it there, and you get a QR code from the state. So there were three options there also. That would allow you to go into any restaurant, again, at 50% capacity. The governor didn't allow us to go higher. I asked for 75. He kept it at 50. And allow you and up to now 5 people on the same table unless there are all household residents. And when I say household residents, I'm talking about immediate family living with you in the same household. Right. So let's say you have a family of 7 or 8. You would still be allowed because you're a household group. But if not, just 5 indoors and 10 outdoors.
Excellent. Yes, and so you mentioned that you were hearing not only mixed reviews, but there's people who had some challenges. What kind of challenges were you hearing about?
Some of it was the misinterpretations of the responses. We have a question and answer page on our emergency rules on the website, and some people were reading it and misinterpreting, and so we try to clarify that. Let me say what one of the interpretations was. First of all, there was a restaurant that claimed they were losing workers because they had to they were vaccinated, but they had to stay home 14 days. Our rules read, so long as they've gotten their first dose and get their second dose within the allotted time frame, they'll be allowed to go back to work, and they don't have to quarantine for 14 days.
Right.
That issue was really when you're taking your second dose, and we wanted people to get the full residual effect of the vaccination. We asked them not to, to wait 14 days. Then they would be what we call maximize immunization. So that was one of the issues that came up as an employer. And so we clarified that. We contacted that in particular employer, and we let them know that if the employee has a first vaccination, then they're allowed to get back to work. And so long as they take their second one in a 2, 3, or 4 week, depending what type of vaccination they get, and they will be good to go.
Great. I'm glad that you clarified that because we haven't been getting a lot of questions on that, but we've been getting a lot of interesting questions that are coming up, and I really appreciate the work that you and your team are doing to respond to this as much as possible. I'm also glad that you reiterated, there were other options on the table being discussed, and you as our mayor was really working hard to keep businesses open. I mean, at certain points, there were options on the table that looked like we might have to pull back.
And that's what my biggest concern was, Pam, and thank you for reminding everyone that, we were at a point where we were stressed. Numbers throughout the state and even here in Maui County were extremely high. And areas like Lanai and Molokai were having more cases, and it became very concerning. How do we handle this with one hospital? And the hospitals in Oahu were being overburdened themselves with their own patients. So we had no relief somewhere else.
Right.
And so I'm glad that, you and others have begun to realize that we're trying really hard to protect our businesses, at the same time protect the well-being and safety of our residents and visitors alike.
You absolutely have been, Mayor, and I attest to that all the time because I appreciate that you're working with us in the community on this. Can I bring up something that's been shared with me recently, and I don't know what the answer is, and maybe you've been in discussions about this, but I really haven't heard it talked a lot about. But I guess in some European countries, they also recognize that people who had COVID, never got vaccinated, but had COVID, and then recovered from COVID, they're now recognizing them differently in what they call, I guess, in that area, a health pass. Is that something that's being discussed here because they've had COVID, so they have some level of immunities now? Are you hearing discussion about that here in Hawaii?
There is some discussion on the national level and some discussion here in Hawaii. On the national level, the CDC and others are looking into these issues. There is a, quote, certain amount of immunity once you've gotten COVID-19, but no one's sure how long that lasts. And, there have been cases that the Delta variant, which is a lot more potent than the regular COVID-19, has affected some of these people again. In other words, they got COVID for the second time, which is this Delta variant. So There is some evidence that, yes, you have some immunity, but to what degree, they're not certain. CDC has kind of been discussing this matter, and I'm not a medical expert, so I don't want to get into it. You'd have to ask Dr. Shea or some of these other people who are medical experts, Dr. Pang, people like that who better understand that. But from my reports, we are trying our best to make sure people get vaccinated. Probably the best way to prevent getting a major illness, hospitalization, or even death.
Absolutely. Mayor, where are we at today on the counts and the hospital capacity?
Okay. Yesterday, well, I only have yesterday because we haven't gotten the reports of for today. They don't usually come out till about 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. But yesterday we had 32 cases. 38. That was Kauai. We had 38 cases here on Maui County. Our positivity rate, our test positivity rate has dropped to 4.16. We're the only county below 5% at this time, which is a big accomplishment, and I want to thank people for that. And then, let me say this, Pam, I would like to interject this before I go into the hospital. People throughout Maui County did heed our warning about Labor Day, and we have gone through the Labor Day 2-week period and seen no major surge. Actually, we've seen a leveling off of the numbers. So I have to thank the people of Maui County. They, again, have stepped up to the plate and done a great job. So mahalo, because you have protected your community, your family, and I'm so grateful for that. So going to the hospital numbers for yesterday. Okay, hang on a second. All right, we had Maui County had 14 people in ICU, 2 of which are on COVID-19, are COVID-19 patients, and we had 7 people on ventilators, 2 COVID-related. So the 2 people that are in ICU have or are using ventilators at this time. But you know, although our numbers have dropped, and I'm very thankful for that, Pam. One of the areas that I've been really despondent at and kind of concerned is the rate of deaths that have occurred, because that has gone up quite a bit. We're at 83, and just 2 months ago we were at 62. And so I'm concerned that part of this is most of those who have died were unvaccinated. Okay, that is a fact.
Right.
I'm concerned that those who stay unvaccinated, who don't want to get vaccinated, who are anti-vaxxers, are, really more susceptible to serious illness, hospitalization, and possibility of death. I mean, if those 3 reasons doesn't get you to the vaccination, unless you have health issues or you have where your medical doctor said you cannot take the vaccination, outside of that, I would think everybody would want to do it.
I can tell you a story. It's a family story. We have a family member on the mainland who didn't get vaccinated and let us know that they had COVID, and we were hearing from them for a few days, and then we were reaching out and didn't hear for a week. And at that point, we figured if they're too weak to call or text because they were severely sick, then they might be in the hospital or they might need somebody to rescue them. So we were actually checking area hospitals, and we were just about to try and get a hold of the local police or the State Department of Health in that area and see if somebody could check on them when they texted and said, look, just really, really sick. And, and they were kind of like annoyed like we were checking it. And we were saying, from afar, we'd rather overreact than underreact because we're hearing stories of people who get so sick and are trying to weather it out at home and aren't making it.
Absolutely. And that's the scary part, when they stay at home and we have no idea what's going on. Can they spread it to other family members? That's possible, But
right.
We do say in our rules that if you are sick, stay at home, Unless you need medical treatment, we ask you to stay at home. No, don't go to work, right? We say that, okay? But in these cases, when you are severely ill, please contact medical personnel so they can help transport you to the hospital. But make sure you inform them that you believe you're COVID positive, so they are protected with all the protective devices and equipment and uniforms that they are given, so that they don't get sick. So even if you're vaccinated, and I'll say this, there are still some breakthrough cases, but they are far and few between. We have, I think, right now, of the cases I told you,
Yeah.
11 are what you call non-vaccinated, and 2 are vaccinated in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, vaccination does help. In most cases, a severe case, especially this Delta variant. Even Dr. Peng said this variant has been very, very contagious and much more severe, especially those who don't take the vaccination. So, I want to go back to the businesses. I think that's, we should move on to our businesses to make sure that they understand that I am watching the numbers. I'm watching our test positivity rate. If hospitalization and these continue to trend down, maybe not quickly, but if steadily, I will, by next week, the end of the month, consider some rules and have them ask for changes to maybe, 1, increase sizes for our restaurants, so long as they're doing the vaccination program. I think we could look at that. Testing, how we are now trying to provide more tests out there.
Right.
Test kits are becoming a difficult thing to get, and so I'm trying to work with the state right now to see if we can get some of the test kits Oahu got for self-administering tests. If people can do it and not have to come in and go to a clinic. So I like that idea also, making it more convenient. But the bottom line in all of this, I'm not closing my eyes to anything. I'm looking for all alternatives and continue to support our local restaurants and businesses, as well as making sure that our residents are safe and healthy.
We really appreciate that, Mayor. Absolutely. And I know you've been working hard on this, and I know you've been listening to businesses, and it's been a challenge. As you said, some are for, some are against. Some, we have heard a number of people say, that we've seen on the news where people have said, I don't feel it's my responsibility to tell people they need to get vaccinated, and we've been explaining to them that's been taken care of for you. You're not having to tell people that. This is a government mandate to protect our communities. It's similar to other mandates, and it's about allowing us to remain open where possible. And you're not having to make that individual call. So if your customers are concerned about it, they can look at what's happening in the system when you're getting complaints, and it's not that you're requiring that, you're following the government guidelines. And for many businesses, that's helpful because they are, hearing some backlash from their customers. And so it helps them to think through that and reframe it a little bit to say, I understand your choice, but we have to follow the government mandate.
And yes, and government is here, again, for the safety and well-being of our community.
Absolutely.
We're not here to be draconian and trying to make rules just to make rules. In fact, as much as possible, I'd like to loosen the mandates and, get our people back to some kind of normalcy. One of the areas is spectators,
Yes.
for sports. We cannot do anything with sports right now, and so we're working on that. And so I want everyone to know that spectators is one of the issues along many other issues that I'm dealing with in this community.
Yeah, I honestly, I think, as you look back over the past couple of years and start looking at all the amazing issues that you've been having to tackle, even in regular times, not to mention COVID times, I mean, really, Mayor, you have been championing so many issues along the way, and we really appreciate that. Again, it's about capacity and wanting to keep things open, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much, Pam. And again, to all the people out there in Maui County who are following the mandate and trying to keep themselves and their families safe, which helps keep our community safe, I say mahalo to all of you. For those in doubt, check with your medical experts. Don't be really reading everything on the Facebook and believe it's true. I think social media sometimes can be very nasty. And they see things their way, and they make sure it's written and shown that way. And many times there's always two sides to every story. And so,
absolutely. And
one more thing I'll add, and maybe next show we can talk a little bit more about it. The federal infrastructure funding that's becoming available.
Yes.
I'm going to work with all of you to see what we can do to help with businesses in whatever funding becomes available, for businesses in the near future. So I want, Pam, to thank you and others who, credit unions, others that have stepped up to the plate continuously to help us, in the business communities to make sure we try to keep our mom and pop, our family, alive and at least alive and surviving for right now. And hopefully with this passing, they'll start to thrive again.
Absolutely. And Mayor, I'm glad you brought up the federal infrastructure funding as well. Do you also, it seems like there's ways to also leverage that funding to assist with our attainable housing and rentals.
Some of it can be utilized for that, and we're working on that right now. We have planned or what I call on the books planned about 1,500 units here in Central Maui. So now we're trying to put that together with all the various entities and whatever infrastructure that needs to be done. Great. That can be done for that attainable or affordable rentals, attainable housing and affordable rentals. So we're right in the middle of that right now. Hopefully in the next 30 days we'll have a firm plan to present not only to the council but to the community at large. But COVID has kind of always derailed us. Every time we think we're gone and we're moving along, whoop, something else comes along. So pray, everyone, pray that this will be our last major surge and that we all do what is right and get back to the normalcy we all want and enjoy.
Absolutely. Well, Mayor, as always, it's a great pleasure to have you on the show. I know you're dealing with other things this morning, and we really appreciate you taking the time to carve out and spend this time with us. So thank you very much.
Mahalo. God bless you. You take care. Aloha.
God bless you. Aloha. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. And we're back. If you're just tuning in, this is Business Matters from the Maui Chamber of Commerce and brought to you by Mokulele Airlines. This morning, we also have with us Meagan Degaya. She is the new destination manager for the Maui Visitors and Convention Bureau. And Meagan is originally from Northern Virginia, where she studied conservation and women's studies at George Mason University. She first came to Hawaii 18 years ago to volunteer on organic farms. Over the years, she has worked as a grant manager, a marine naturalist, environmental educator, youth service provider, and community magazine publisher. Good morning, and aloha, Meagan.
Good morning. Aloha, Pam. Thanks so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. We are excited to get to meet you virtually. I know that when you were being hired, everybody was waiting to make the announcement. They were very excited to announce you in this new position. So can you tell everybody what the Destination Management Action Plan is?
Absolutely. I would love to. It's a great question. The Maui Nui Destination Management Action Plan is part of HTA's effort really throughout the state to address quality of life for local residents. And the ultimate goal of the DMAP is to rebuild, redefine, and reset tourism over a 3-year period. So this effort actually began back in July of 2020 and will span into 2023. And with this new directive of regenerative tourism that we have, we'll be working to benefit the Aina, Kama'aina visitors and the visitor industry. And the actions identified in the DMAP were created all based on resident feedback that was received a few ways. Community meetings that were held on each of the islands, also an online input form and steering committees. And each action contains sub-actions, which address how the overarching action and directive will be fulfilled. And all the goal of it all is to work synergistically together, aiming to improve quality of life for residents and really through our new regenerative tourism approach. So my role as destination manager, and for each of the destination managers that will be hired throughout the state, our role is to be the liaison between the visitor industry and our island's residents. The destination manager for Oahu was just brought on last week, so it's really an exciting time.
It is, excuse me, it is a great time to build this alliance and to know that each of our sister islands is also going to have a destination manager for their island. So as you work together, and I love what you talked about, being out in the community and hearing from residents. Explain to people, some people are not familiar with the term regenerative tourism. And can you explain to the audience what you mean by that?
Yeah, so unlike kind of the goal of simply doing less harm, regenerative tourism is really about being of benefit, where business and the visitor industry and tourism can be a force of positive social change. And we can really radiate wealth back into the community through tourism by channeling and directing visitors to be of service and of benefit to the places that they go, instead of a more extractive nature of tourism.
I absolutely love that. I mean, who would who would argue with that? I loved how you phrased that. So again, I mean, that philosophy of doing less harm is something that, we've been trying to teach and educate and help people understand more, which is still extremely important. But also to then, recognize that tourism also can be a great benefit. And how do we look at it differently? And so to then go from this philosophy of, well, if we educate them, they'll do better, which they do. But now to say, in addition to doing better, how can we leverage them to understand our causes and help us and be a positive impact on social change? Really exciting. Can you tell us where we're at with the plan today? What are some of the things that you're working on? And actually, if you'll give me just a quick, how many days or how long have you been on the job now? It hasn't been all that long.
I just started August 16th.
Okay.
So just last month was when I came on board. I'm very thankful for this opportunity. And there are always progress reports being posted on the HTA website, and I'm certainly happy to share where we're at with things here in Maui Nui. So we just formed advisory boards for Molokai and Lanai, and we're in the process of planning these first advisory board meetings with both communities over there. And I look forward to collaborating with the community to bring regenerative tourism solutions to both islands based solely on what the residents need and want for their communities and what they'd like to see with their local businesses with regards to tourism, visitors going to both islands. Additionally, we're growing our Malama Hawaii program, which gives visitors the opportunity to redeem an incentive, which is offered by a participating hotel when they simply volunteer with one of our partner nonprofit organizations. So this is very exciting to me because it's really the crux of regenerative tourism. I'm happy to report we currently have 80 hotels participating statewide, 28 of which are based here on Maui. And I believe now we have over 12 Maui nonprofits that are working with us. And I encourage all interested nonprofits, all interested hotels that are not already involved in this program to reach out to me directly so that I can bring them on board. I'm also happy to report that the Malama County Pledge video is playing on Expeditions Ferry, so that's getting a lot of great exposure. And Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau has also been marketing our Malama videos to educate and attract mindful visitors. So these videos are being streamed on Amazon, Roku, Hulu, also being advertised on social media and more. And in addition to that, we created a year-long social media campaign to educate visitors about our great new reef-safe sunscreen law, which basically outlines the sale of sunscreens here in the state, which contain oxybenzone and octinazate, which are really harmful to marine life. And I encourage everyone to check out our Maui Visit Lanai, and see Molokai Instagram and Facebook pages to see what we're sharing with visitors.
I mean, really, some of the new materials coming out, and some of them started pre-COVID, and the storytelling, which has been really awesome, and now the visitor education is really fantastic. These new Malama videos, people can get them and post them on their social media as well. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's a great point. You can access them all on YouTube, and you can absolutely share them on your pages if you want to work with us, help us in that way to increase exposure. And I also want to share that the destination management action plans, not only for Maui Nui, but for each of the islands in our state, they're all available on the Hawaii Tourism Authority website. And you can easily find our Maui Nui DMAP by simply Googling Destination Management Action Plan Maui, and it'll pop right up. It's all public information.
That's fantastic. What is the HTA website? Is it just hta.com?
Let me Google that right now.
No worries. I'm sorry.
So sorry.
That's okay. I was thinking off the top of my head. I didn't know it, so I thought. But while you're looking that up, I appreciate that. Also, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so my email address is meagan@mauivb.com. So that's Meagan spelled MEAGAN at MauiVB as in visitorsbureau.com. And for those that want to visit the Hawaii Tourism Authority website, that's hawaiitourismauthority.org.
Okay, so it's spelled out. Awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Okay.
Good question there.
Hawaii Tourism Authority. Okay, got it. .com. Well, I love the engagement, and I love some of the new educational materials that are coming out. And we encourage people through the Chamber. We've been sharing with some of our members. We also just saw, and we're going to put up the Pono Pledge as well. Folks, as you're seeing these new materials, if they resonate with you, if asking people to take the Pono Pledge, you can take the Pono Pledge. We as residents can also take the Pono Pledge. It's not just for our guests. It can be for our community as well. We encourage you to share these materials. They are available, and be a part of the process. And especially now with this new Destination Management Action Plan, which we call the DMAP for short. Especially now, this is a time of great engagement where we'd love to see more get involved. So we're very excited about that. And, I also wanted to ask you, Meagan, where are we today at the visitor numbers? We kind of heard some things moving in, from a really robust July, hearing some of the numbers were about half of July and August, and now, of course, we're in that shoulder period. So we wondered if you could give us an update on that.
Well, the most recent stats that have been put out came out in July of 2021, so those are the ones that I have access to. Would you still like to hear some specifics with regard to that time frame as it compares to 2019?
Awesome. Yes.
Okay, great. So year to date, Maui visitor arrivals through July of 2021 total 282,715, which is you probably are aware, down 8.2% from July 2019, when visitor arrivals through that same point of the year reached 307,834. Our average daily census for this year through July has been 76,195 visitors on average each day here in Maui alone. So this does not include Molokai or Lanai. With our average per person spending being just over $206 a day. Again, that's slightly down 3% from 2019. And that brings total expenditures for the year through July to $487.9 million. And again, that's down 3.5% from the $506 million we saw in 2019. And one number that has increased is the average length of stay for visitors here in Maui. So average length of stay currently is 8.35 days compared to 7.71 days in 2019.
Awesome. Okay. So again, longer stays, but spending's still down, which is, again, one of the reasons we continue to hear that even though we saw recovery, not only are businesses still trying to recover from the periods of time that they were shut down, but also, our spending has still dropped a little bit. So it's been good, but we want to kind of get that back on track, but in a new way. And what are you hearing on the ground? What are the things that people are telling you as you're out in this job and working on the islands of Molokai and Lanai? What are the common concerns, and maybe what are some of the different concerns that maybe aren't shared by all?
Sure. So some of the things that I'm hearing for Lanai is the residents there want visitors to have an opportunity to get up to Lanai City so that they can be supporting the restaurants and the shops up there. Also on Molokai, residents are wanting kind of a visitor center at the airport itself, which can be a resource for both residents and visitors to get the most recent COVID information and to learn about regenerative tourism opportunities on the island. Ultimately, the overarching sentiment that I'm hearing throughout Maui Nui is residents want visitors to be channeled out of inappropriate places. Maybe they've heard about a hike or a location, a beautiful spot that was in an old guidebook, and they want to know how to get to it. So residents really want visitors to be, directed away from those places and into more appropriate places. Right.
We joked that many, many years ago, just even getting down to McKenna, knowing which was the right road to turn on to was something that, was an adventure, and you knew if you lived here. And, of course, now over many, many years, we've seen so much put out on social media and people are going into very remote areas, sometimes very dangerous areas, but also in areas that used to be really sort of held tight for local families, and we've seen a lot of that, erode. And so I understand those concerns, and often, again, there are many safety concerns that go with that. So it's really important to help educate people on that. So how do we do that with social media today? How do we pull back on some of those things?
I think it's really about providing new opportunities so that a big part of our activity industry here can revolve around voluntourism.
Mm-hmm.
So that instead of saying, in addition to taking measures and actions to prohibit visitors from going to places that they shouldn't be going, also providing lots of opportunities that they can say yes to. So it's been really exciting to bring on more nonprofits and build up our website, on Go Hawaii website, that is then making it available for visitors to jump into a number of different of our participating nonprofit partners and be of service to these places, and not only be of service, but have a really rich, meaningful experience where they're getting a culturally immersive experience. They're learning from the people who live here, who can be a voice for this place. So relationships and friendships are formed, not only with the people, but also with the land here. And so real transformation can happen, and we have the opportunity to really catalyze a positive shift in consciousness among the global family that we're all a part. So we have a real opportunity here.
I absolutely agree. And, and I think, too, there's also great opportunities for so many in our community, from small businesses to local farmers, educational, eco tours, farm tours, helping people see new sustainability models that are being put in place in our island community and state. There's so many exciting things that are happening now, and I've been doing some work with some of the local farmers who are just really wanting to share their farms. It wasn't something they were doing before, but now they're looking at ways to share their farms and also maintain the farm. They're like, well, we can't do tours all the time because we still have to keep up with the farm. But people are looking for those kinds of adventures. They're wanting to hear the stories of, a farm that's been in the family for hundreds of years, and really talk about, what kinds of new and different experiences people can have on island. And I think it's a great time for businesses to look at that as well. Which ways they can contribute, what kind of new experiences might they be able to offer in this new arena as well.
Very well said, and it's part of our responsibility to attract that more mindful traveler, not so much a tourist, but a mindful traveler who has it in their heart to have more meaningful experiences like this, to really get to know a place and really get to know cultures while they're traveling.
Yeah, and that is the type of visitor we want. That is the not only is it the goal, but I mean, that's something that speaks to us all, right? It's when we get to share the Aloha spirit, and when we have people who also come with that spirit as well. Maybe they don't connect with it, that it's the Aloha spirit, but there are those who sort of embody the principles of that. On that note, do you folks, is that part of the plan? Is teaching people about the Aloha spirit?
Yeah, education is a huge part of the GMAP with regard to the ocean and the culture and connecting people with more cultural opportunities here. So education is absolutely a huge part of it.
Awesome.
Pre and post arrival.
I think that's fantastic.
And as you were saying, it can be a good revenue building opportunity for local businesses and farms, where they can then be directly benefiting more from tourism itself through both service and through paid ticketed experiences. I
think it's just a great time for people to reinvent themselves and in business, you should always be looking forward and looking at new and interesting opportunities. But this is a time that we're finding, again, connected with what's happening on looking at regenerative tourism. This is an opportunity where there are some exciting things that businesses are doing that they can share that would be of interest. In many regions, of course, here we have small manufacturing, but in many regions, people do manufacturing tours, as an example. And so residents love that. We organize those for some of our legislators and different people from time to time. These aren't paid tours. These are educational tours. But every time you go, somebody's so thrilled and excited to learn. And so there's opportunities in that as well, and something that we're always thinking about, because this year it looks like, again, we really tried to do a live in-person Made in Maui County Festival this year, but with the way things are shaping up, we've had to look at now going virtual. But as we continue to move through COVID too, and as a community looking at ways to leverage opportunities in a positive way with the visitor industry, there are so many opportunities that could emerge that could really benefit the community if, done well and done right with everybody's input, which is why we're so thrilled to have you on board in this position.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very humbled and thankful for this opportunity.
It is our great pleasure, Meagan. Thank you so much for joining us. We will bring you back on the show again. We'd love to get updates periodically on what's happening. And in your first month, it sounds like a lot's been happening, which is awesome to hear. We want to encourage people to visit HawaiiTourismAuthority.com. You can find the Maui DMAP there. Look at all the different DMAPs under HTA, which stands for Hawaii Tourism Authority. And so learn more, but also you can reach out to Meagan, Meagan, at MauiVB.com. Thank you so much, Meagan. We look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Pam. Aloha.
Aloha.
Have a good morning.
Thank you. You too. Okay, we'll be back in a minute after a quick word from our sponsor. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. And we're back. We are now pleased to introduce Nicholas Winfrey, President and Chief Professional Officer of Maui United Way. Nicholas has spent over a decade in the nonprofit sector supporting animal welfare, social justice, and emergency response in California, Australia, Asia Pacific, and now here on Maui. Nicholas is the Vice President of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association, a member of the Maui Red Cross Advisory Council, Upcountry Rotarian, and sits on the Department of Health Committee on Underage Drinking Prevention. Aloha and good morning, Nicholas. We're so happy to have you on the show. Oh, Nicholas, I'm so sorry. It's like you're underwater. We're having a really difficult time hearing anything you just said.
Sounds a little bit better now. I am all the way out in Huelo, and going back to your previous guest, hopefully we can do these in person again soon.
Bless you. And that's actually perfect. It was like night and day. I don't know if you got a clearing in Huelo, but that was awesome. Well, yes, we all love those personal connections. So, I'm so excited to have you in the position heading Maui United Way. Tell us about the current campaign and what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. For 75 years since post-World War II, the Maui United Way campaign has really been the lifeblood of our organization that allows us to support so many nonprofit partners, connect so many resources with those in need, and really activate the community to support us in a way that can really exponentially grow the impacts of what donations do. So we launched our campaign earlier this month. It's basically, the opportunity to donate via workplace giving, monthly gifts that you can do via online, or even just donate your time or talent. There's so many different ways that you can support us, and this is the big kickoff that we do. But like I said, it's really the lifeblood of our funding that continues on. We know that it's tough to ask during times like this, but this is the time that we see really people step up to provide a hand up to their community by donating via the campaign.
Absolutely. And, we've always seen that Maui is a great giving community. We have outranked many different numbers in terms of local giving over the decades. And it's a really easy way to give, especially as Nicholas mentioned. If you do it through your workplace campaign, you can give a little bit out of your paycheck. And it's one of those things, whatever it is, whether it's a couple of dollars or a cup of coffee or a larger donation, it's one of those things that over time you don't even recognize until you look back and look at all the great things that you helped contribute to.
I couldn't have said it better, Pamela, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. Literally, if you forego a cup of coffee, even a month, as little as $5 a month, really does make an impact, especially when you activate the entire community to do something like this. We ask just a small donation really does go a long way and support our 39 nonprofit partners and other programs, including Tools for School and our Toy Drive, Holiday Toy Drive as well.
Yeah, Maui United Way has been a staple in our community. And tell us about some of the partners that you have. And you mentioned a couple of the annual programs that you do with the Toy Drive. And tell us about some of the programs that Maui United Way is focused on and some of the priorities that you're working on.
Absolutely. Well, we have three pillars that we focus on here at our organization, and that's education, health, and economic mobility. So all of our 39 partner agencies that were vetted by the community actually decided who to fund, really fall in those three areas. They range from addiction counseling at Aloha House to Hui no Ke Olapono and Native Hawaiian integrative medicine, to Feed My Sheep, to the Girl Scouts, a wide range that focus on those three areas. So yes, we fund a lot of agencies, but we also have some in-house programming as well. Obviously, this past year has been pretty hectic, so we've had to pivot quite a bit. We provided a safety net fund to provide a hand up to agencies that were really kind of struggling during this pandemic, up to $5,000 grants. We disseminated over $250,000 that way. Also provided, private funding within the space for rental and utility assistance for our partners at HECO and Aloha United Way. We also just wrapped up our Cow for Keiki feeding program with DOE and USDA to get our children lunches and breakfast during the summer months. And you'll be the first to hear it here. We're actually working on another program for the fall break with some private funders as well to make sure our keiki are fed. And then, of course, our Tools for School program to provide school supplies for students, Holiday Toy Drive, allowing our partners to provide toys to their clients. We've been providing PPE to the entire nonprofit sector as well. And one of the new initiatives that we're taking on that's really exciting is in partnership with UHMC. Basically building out a data dashboard with a lot of our social data on food insecurities and food availability within the community as well. So we're excited for that data project. We've had 75 years of social data. We just haven't done much with it, and that's what we're looking at doing now.
That's really important, and the data is so important, and it's so funny that you say that because often there's so much data that's been collected, but then it's like, okay, but how are we organizing and analyzing it? So what a wonderful project. I'm excited to hear about that. That's going to be tremendous.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity, obviously, in partnership with UHMC to potentially create a new job sector as well. United Way is part of a much larger, umbrella organization called United Way Worldwide. So there's 1,800 of us around the world. And if we're able to kind of develop this education program, this certification to measure social impact and build out these dashboards, there's a huge, huge market for that even, just at United Way alone, let alone the entire nonprofit sector. And if we can create the experts here in the county, guess what? They can work remotely. They can work from here. They can be educated here, and they can really make an impact across the country and world, which we're really, really excited for.
I think that's a phenomenal project, and we love that. I love the new term that people are using, which is work from home, or now what we keep hearing is WFA, which is work from anywhere. So
I love it.
and I love that here in Hawaii, because work from anywhere means you could be sitting at Baldwin Beach and doing your work as long as you have a good Wi-Fi connection. We are very fortunate, we're very blessed. So, Nicholas, in this time, and everybody was pivoting during COVID, and Maui United Way has done a tremendous job of supporting our community as we've been going through all of this. Can you talk to us about some of the critical needs that you see at Maui United Way?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that we developed during this time was a 211 operator here in the county. So we have a new staff member that if you're in need of social support, you can dial 211, and you'll actually be connected with someone here in the county that can really facilitate the network of social services and limit the amount of handoffs that you have. But with that position, we've actually been able to glean a lot of information as well. We've been able to see trends about what the needs are and what the community is in need of. Obviously, with us at Maui United Way, volunteer time, financial support, those are always needs. But if you're looking at the community and what the trends we're seeing, obviously housing, we're starting to see that ramp up again, rental assistance, utility assistance with the moratorium coming to an end.
Right.
And then we're also seeing a lot of questions about, just the current health crisis and with the new norms that are coming out and new regulations, is how do individuals navigate that? We're still seeing food security. We're still seeing a lot of these things. But what we're really seeing is a lot of those sunsetted programs from the initial, ramp up of COVID and the outbreak, kind of fizzled out. And now we're seeing a need for those resources again. So you're seeing the nonprofit sector try to stand those programs back up again.
Right.
And resources are more limited now than ever. So, if you are looking at what the critical needs are at Maui United Way in the community, it's support the nonprofit sector. We know that, some people are hurting more than others. And if you have the capacity, donate your time, donate your expertise. These are all businesses. They all have, financial audits, accountants are needed. If you have an expertise in the for-profit sector, I guarantee it can be utilized in the nonprofit sector.
Awesome.
And having volunteers in this time is definitely needed as well.
Well, Nick, we're going to have everybody go look at the Maui United Way website, look at how you can get involved, and this is the giving season. So please take some time to look at this and think about it from your heart and give this year. Mahalo, Nick, for joining us. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. This is the Business Matters Radio Show, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce and Mokulele Airlines. I'm Pamela Tumpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing you blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day. Ahui ho.